weather that unfortunately we have. I can see that that you are outside, right?
Yeah, we have a little bit of sun, but as a consequence, we have the obligado of lawnmowers and weed eaters in the background. So it is what it is. But I'm finding so much of my my outlook on the world in quarantine depends on whether or not the sun is shining, right? I mean,
I understand. I believe we are live right now, which is
okay.
one.
Now I'm nervous.
We had me too, just a little bit. Welcome everybody. This is again Cleveland Opera Theater. My name is Domenico Boyagian, music director of Cleveland Opera Theater, Opera 101 and Maestros Corner. This is a place where we talk with artists, we hear their stories, and through them we understand music just a little bit. And I'm hearing birds right now. It is so refreshing to hear flutes play in the background.
That's actually that's a layer on Zoom that you can add now. You can add birdsong in the background.
So we have some una colonna sonora. We have some music in the background. So I am very, very pleased to have with us a good friend, a very kind person, and a colleague, General Director of OperaDelaware, Brendan Cooke. Brendan, welcome.
Thank you, Maestro. Thanks for having me.
I'm so happy to talk to you. I'm so happy to see you. I haven't seen you in quite some time. It's quite some time since circumstances, not just because of this horrendous thing that is happening these days, but also our career takes us to different places at different times.
Our paths will intersect again soon.
And right now our paths are on the screen. I see our two faces are next to each other. So I'll take that. Brendan, just tell me a little bit about your background. I know you were a singer before, and now you are general director of an important opera company. So I'm wondering what happened there. The transition? How did that happen?
I'll go back. Go back to we're live, so I'll be careful. I'll go back to the beginning and say that I was supposed to be a famous heavy metal guitar player. Something went horribly wrong.
Call me
on that journey. I think it's too late. My brothers liked to rib me that I still wore tights and makeup for a living. I grew up in a musical family. My father and mother and brothers were both all pianists, and but opera was never really part of the household growing up. Mm-hmm. And the story goes that I bought my first opera ticket to impress a girl. I don't remember her name, but I remember everything about that production.
That's the way to do it.
And I started making up for lost time at that point. I just said, God, where has this thing been all of my short 19 years on the planet at this time? And I just wanted to learn more. Started singing in school. I should say I went to school I got a degree in music education. I had plans to become a high school choir director, and then I got the opera bug. So I sang for a number of years professionally, and then in 2008, when we lost the Baltimore Opera Company, a company that was very important to me, both personally and professionally. Some friends and I started the Baltimore Concert Opera, and that was sort of my trial by fire into this side of the desk, or this side of the stage, I should say. But I learned pretty quickly that I'm better at talking about opera and getting people excited about it than I ever was at screaming it at them. So I was very lucky to sort of find this path. And as we were talking before, I think that something that I struggled with as a singer, and something that I think a lot of people don't realize, is the sacrifices that our artists have to make, right? To be in town with us for 6 weeks to rehearse. They're leaving their families, they're leaving their normal lives to sort of be with us. And I think it takes a very strong person, both physically, mentally, and emotionally. Yeah. And I learned pretty quickly that wasn't for me. I mean, I'm a miserable traveler. I'm a terrible packer, and I just I stress, and I miss my family. So I feel very very fortunate to have been given the opportunity to still be involved in the industry in a meaningful way, but to have a little bit of a home life. And I think as such, I'm always so grateful when we do have people with us for a month and a half, sacrificing their time and their home life to bring us something special.
Yeah, you hit an important point here. Probably people are not thinking about it just because they're not in this business, but the lifestyle is very difficult.
It's hard.
Starting from the travel to meeting new people, and they are your colleagues for 6 weeks, and then you may or may not see them again. So you have to be collegial, even though you may be in a bad mood. You only have 6 weeks to make people believe that you are in love with someone else, and you have to sing it in a different language, surrounded by people that you don't know. So to make a movie, it's maybe a little bit easier to make a movie, I would think, because you're on set for 6 months. You get some sort of relationship with the people they're surrounded with.
Yeah.
So I'm an audience member, and I go to the theater, and I sit down, I pay my ticket. I pay $25, $50, $75, $150 for a ticket. And I see a stage, I see sets made out of wood, I see 6 singers, they seem to enjoy what they do, and there's an orchestra of medium size and a few lights. It shouldn't cost a lot to produce an opera.
I was wondering where you were going with all that.
So I'm wondering, unfortunately, I know what the answer is. I'm wondering, is it expensive to put something together like Le Nozze di Figaro, Carmen, La Bohème?
It's funny, Maestro, as you were saying those things, I was hearing the totals going up in my head with each of the elements.
I believe you.
Honestly, it brings me back to my first experience with opera, and how it's shocking that it took me 20 years to get to this side of the desk, because that first opera that I saw was in New Orleans, and it was Tannhäuser, which might scare some people away, right? This is pretty heavy fare for a first timer. But we sit down, we're up in the seats in the back, and it was a $60 ticket. And I remember that because for a sophomore in college, that was not cheap.
Expensive, yeah.
Times 2, right? Really investing in that date. But so here you sit down, the lights go out, and you look into the pit, and what's that, like a 15 minute overture for Tannhäuser, right? So I've got some time while I'm bathing in these beautiful sounds, and counted
beautiful music too. Yeah,
I counted the number of people in the orchestra pit because we were that high. I could see everybody. And I started doing math in my head thinking, well, geez, my ticket didn't pay for this, right? and then the curtain opens up, and there are all these people on stage in these beautiful handmade costumes on this gorgeous set. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, God, this is the value proposition of the century, right? There's no way that the tickets supported this. The favorite story that I have that I like to tell about the costs and the expense, we talked before about what you see as an audience member being that essentially the tip of the iceberg. Mm-hmm. And what you don't see is everything that happens below the water. And I rewind to 2016, our board chair at the time, who's still our board chair, is in the construction business. And we were building one of our sets in the warehouse that his company owned. And, he let the crew in at 7 a.m. to start building. And they built this massive structure out of scaffolding. And, Andy wasn't impressed because he's in the construction business. They build buildings, right? I mean, this is cool, right? He comes over to the studio that morning for a meeting, and there happened to be an orchestra rehearsal going on. So I said, come here, I want to show you where a big chunk of our money goes. And we sat in the room, and 40 or 50 orchestra players playing along. And he said, oh, this is amazing. And I said, come here, I want to take you into the costume shop.
Mhm.
And that was when his face lit up. He looked at these racks and racks of costumes that had come to us from Canada, and he said, someone has to fit all these costumes onto our performers. I said, that's what got you, all of this stuff.
Yeah.
But I think it's just a great way to point out that there's always another layer of work that is happening.
Exactly.
You know, it starts with an idea, you know, and then these sets are designed, but then they're revised, and then they're built, and then they're painted, and then they're lit, and then, you know, there's a running crew behind the stage when you're there that you don't even see. There's a stage manager who's calling all the cues to make sure that everything happens when it's supposed to happen, and nobody gets hurt. You know, I mean, it's such a Herculean effort, and I think by nature, that's what makes it expensive. You know,
Yeah.
but what you see in the theater, and the magic of what you see in the theater, is that it's the culmination of all those efforts, and it only exists for 2.5 or 3 hours, right?
Mhm.
So the experience that you might have when you come to the theater on Friday night may be very different than on Sunday afternoon with all the same ingredients. So it's we invest all this time, effort, and resource into something that really only exists for the 500, 750, or 1,000 people that are there to experience it that night. And that to me is what makes it just so magical, right?
So there's actually two things that change every time you perform. One, we are humans, and we perform in different ways. We breathe in different ways. We have different lives, so that definitely comes through. Second, it's the audience. I get my energy from the audience. It's so important to have people in the hall, people that laugh, people that cry. I hear them breathe sometimes behind me, and that is just giving me stamina, adrenaline, energy to continue and keep the whole stage together. Singers, choruses. It's so exciting. There's the exciting element that is the music itself. That's why it's lasting for so many years. I mean, there is a reason. The other side is, oh my God, the audience is the most important thing.
It's the communal side of it, and that's what makes this time so frustrating. I mean, you go through the rehearsal process, right? And it's wonderful from where we sit, right, to see these layers get added one on top of the other. But you know, you do a final dress rehearsal to an empty theater, and it's a very, very different feeling than when you have people there. You know, and I think that that's where the magic is. I used to show a clip in talks that I would give to Rotary clubs and knitting circles and anybody who would listen, you know, about the power of coming together for live performance. And I played a clip from a production of Elixir of Love back in 2013. It was really only about 20 or 30 seconds of music. But what followed, and what I told people to listen for, was the 67 seconds of applause that followed. I mean, screaming. I thought Maestro was going to have to, you know, da capo the aria, right? But I said, before that, listen to the 5 seconds of silence that was experienced by 700 people that were there. So the magnificent tenor was, you know, the bases were loaded, right? Because all of his colleagues set this environment for him to just knock Una furtiva lagrima right out of the park. and man, did he do it. And look at this. I'm actually getting, if you can see, I'm getting chicken skin.
I'm thinking about it too.
I'm getting chicken skin talking about it because, you know, he gets done. And before they applauded, it was like, what just happened to all of us? Oh my God, I'm going to lose my mind, you know? And it was like, those are the experiences that we can have in live theater that, I'm sorry, you can't have on your couch watching Netflix, because it was like, how's the person next to me responding to this? Oh, they felt that too. You know, they're excited about this too. And then that enthusiasm just builds. There's just nothing like it, and, you know, and it makes all that effort that people don't see worthwhile, even if they can't necessarily articulate what just changed about them. I think those experiences are why we get addicted to live theater, and we chase them every time we go, right? And sometimes we get there, you know, but
and that's actually going to the opera. You said the right word. That's experience. We are hopefully we are creating an experience for the people that are coming, because they have to look presentable, and they probably go to dinner, and they talk about what they are about to see, and probably they read a story. They sit down, they get a drink during the intermission,
right,
and they laugh or they cry. They finish, they probably go get a drink, and you're creating an entire experience for people that come to see you. And it's so humbling to be part of that. It's an important, so that's why we are always striving to do our best. You decided that this evening from 5 p.m. until midnight you dedicate to me, to you, to all our, and we cannot take it for granted ever. Ever.
We talk about that miracle quite often, that that willingness of a patron to corner off a piece of their life to spend with us and to spend with our greater community. And I have a good friend who's a retired ad executive, and he lives in one of our retirement communities here, and helped us do some writing at one point, and put this feeling into words in a way that I really it just really resonates with me. He talked about the feeling that you have when you're walking around with opera tickets in your pocket that day, right? And that commitment to I'm going to do something special tonight.
Yeah.
I'm going to go home after work, and I'm going to pick up my wife. We're going to go out to dinner, and we're going to witness something that is remarkable and that is larger than life, but yet only for us. But that feeling that you have when you're when you know what you could experience, right? It's really kind of remarkable. But that miracle that has to happen for someone to show up and be in one of our seats, the string of events that has to happen, right? Someone has to know that you exist. They have to have the disposable income to buy the tickets. Some have to overcome their objections of what they think opera is.
Absolutely.
But lots of things have to go right. So we darn well better honor that when someone's sitting in our theater, right? And give them that experience. But it's a remarkable thing when it all comes together, and
it's magic.
Those of us
You've
that have experienced we spend the rest of our lives chasing those experiences. We really do. Those of us that get the bug. So it's not like nothing else. And again, it's one of the things that makes this just so painful to not be able to be together. It's tough.
I'm constantly trying to get new people to come to the opera, because as we are talking about this magical moment that happens multiple times throughout a performance, I want everyone that doesn't know anything about it to experience it. And the question that I get all the time is, I'm not a musician. I don't understand music. I'm afraid of coming. What I always say is, it doesn't matter if you are not a musician. You are still able to enjoy music. You still go to a restaurant and enjoy the food, even though you're not a chef. You may still enjoy a glass of bourbon, even though you are not the one that is producing it. You as an audience member are a human being. And you are entitled to just like or not like something, and that can be it. In fact, I'm not a movie producer. I sit on Netflix all the time. And do you see those thumbs? They are up and down. That's as much of a critic I am. Either I like it or don't like it. But I'm giving the movie the opportunity to at least be liked. You know what I mean? So what would you say to someone new? I'm not a musician. I kind of want to experience it somehow, but I'm a little bit afraid to spending $30, $40 for an opera.
Yeah, I've given lots of talks on this topic. When I interviewed for my current position, I was asked by the committee what I was going to do to reach a younger audience. And my audience, my answer wasn't what they were expecting. I said absolutely nothing. And they were sort of, I said, I'm concerned about a new audience, right? If I can find someone in their 70s who for whatever reason has not made it to opera yet. I want them to experience it as much as, I mean, look, bringing opera, bringing music to a younger generation is a moral imperative. But I think that, you know, that bringing it to anybody and getting them to give it a try is really, really important. And I mean, you throw an objection at someone who's in the business and we can overcome it, right? People will say, oh, I don't want to go to opera, it's too expensive. And I say, well, you pay more money to park your car at an Eagles game.
Yeah.
So that's a false objection that you have.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm not going to understand it. Yeah, you will, because we project the words along. And in some operas, I believe you don't really need them. You're going to understand it. You know, I'm trying to think of others, because there are so many, but pretty much any objection you have.
Yeah.
Those of us who know about opera can overcome it. But I like what you had to say, is that you don't need a vocabulary for it.
Or any special tools. As a human being, you already have those tools.
Right. You can like wine, Domenico, and you, with very little experience in drinking wine, may be able to tell the difference between a 1974 Bordeaux or something out of a box. You might not have the vocabulary to talk about every gradation in between. And that's one of the really fun things about investing your time in learning about opera. And that, I feel like the more you learn about it, the more it impresses you and the more that you get out of it. But I don't think that there is a basic vocabulary necessary beyond the human experience. When people give me that comment that I hate, that question, what are you going to do to make opera relevant?
Yeah.
I said, relevant?
It already is.
go see a well-produced production of La Bohème.
Yeah.
Right? And, it doesn't need to be on roller skates. It doesn't need to be updated. If you cannot identify with those characters through the story that they tell, through the music that Puccini gave them, then you probably have a medical issue. You were probably born without a heart, because of course we know these feelings of love and loss and friendship. And, the stories are there. Sometimes they're in a slightly different historical context.
Yeah.
But there's a wealth of new music being written about contemporary experiences. But, even Tosca, Maestro, was written and set in a historical period 100 years prior.
Yeah.
Because they wanted that landscape to tell their story. So
absolutely.
My advice is go with an open mind. I would say don't fret about doing any pre-gaming. Maybe do that before the next one, but just go. I'm going to share the advice that a colleague who runs the Shakespeare company in town here in Delaware shared with me going to a Shakespeare play. He said, don't try to grab onto every word, because you'll go crazy. Just let the sound of the poetry wash over you. And the minute I did that, the minute I let go of any preconceptions of what I had to do, it was like a whole other world of enjoyment and connection to me. Yeah. It was really great. So
sometimes you have to make a very, very little change in here to be able for your whole world to turn upside down. This is so true, like in life. When something is just not happening, just calm down, calma, sit down, breathe, and how else can I see the situation? Right?
I'm loving your gesture there. I'm so used to that gesture from when I was singing the not yet, Brendan. Don't sing yet. Don't sing yet. Wait.
Calma.
You got 4 more measures to
calma.
Count.
That's right. That's right. I'll get you in. I'll get calma. Also, one thing that is funny to me, because I get it all the time. What happens in opera is not real life, because no one falls in love in 3 minutes. So, excuse me? Do you know how many times I fell in love in about 42 seconds? Yeah. It happens all the time. And if you haven't experienced this when you were 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 35, 36, 37, you are missing out. You are missing out, It's just life. It's exactly how it happens. Exactly how it happens. Okay? Happy moments and sad moments, unfortunately.
Right. Right. And look, we must admit that some of the stories are a little over the top, right? I mean,
like in movies, though. Like in movies.
Right.
Yeah.
Trovatore is maybe hard to take seriously as a piece of drama.
Of course.
But when you put everything together and you just sort of check that, anything that we do requires some sort of suspension of disbelief,
yep,
right?
Absolutely.
But just focus on the core of the story, and you'll be rewarded. But I agree with you. I mean, it's entering 15 years of marriage with Julia. I mean, we met on stage at Sarasota Opera, and I felt like we were married, 20 minutes later. So it's, I mean, it does happen.
That's how it happens. That's
Yeah.
exactly how it happens.
Absolutely.
So unfortunately, in this horrible pandemic, and so many people are suffering, and it's really sad. And so first of all, thank you to all healthcare workers that are out there on the front lines. They are doing such an incredible job because they don't even question it. Should I go to work today? No, they say, I have to go to work today. Yeah. And hopefully they have everything necessary to be able to at least keep themselves away from danger, at least a little bit. I mean, they're throwing themselves, Yeah. So thank you to all of you if you're watching right now. You are an amazing person.
They're working or sleeping right now, but if they watch the rebroadcast, I echo your thanks, my friend.
Absolutely. Anywhere in the world. So can you find somehow the silver lining in all of this, as far as our beautiful art form is concerned?
Yeah, it's hard, Maestro, because some of the silver linings that I've been able to find personally, I know that there's a sort of equal and opposite reaction for someone else. I mean, I know that the lifeblood of our art form right now are the performers. People don't come to an opera to see how well the company is administrated, right? They come to hear and see the art. So although I found a few silver linings at the company level where, we may have time to do some projects that we just haven't been able to get to as a small staff during the hustle and bustle of a normal season. I mean, sure, we've been able to find some things that I think, if we're lucky enough to survive this time, will come out a little better for it. But I'd trade it in a second. I look at all of the performers that don't have a livelihood right now. So it's hard to focus on silver linings, but I'm making that commitment that we are going to use this time to be able to, create some more efficiencies on the other side and be a better company and be there more for the performers. But I see some opportunity for sure. I think that one thing that I'm kind of excited about is I think that when we get back to the theater, which we will, my hope is that our audiences are going to be a little more open to exploration of different types of work. In other words, it doesn't always have to be the ABCs. I love the ABCs, but maybe there's opportunity as we're getting back to work for smaller chamber work, for some contemporary work. I mean, so we have an opportunity to do what I think you're doing so beautifully right now, which is to educate a broader audience as to what makes this art form so incredible, right? And that's an opportunity we don't want to squander. Sure, we can talk about silver linings of having a little more time at home with family and this and that, but then I think about the people that are having to quarantine by themselves. So I feel like everything I can grab onto is immediately sort of deflated by thinking about someone else that doesn't have what I have. So it's a very, very tough question to answer. There aren't many silver linings, but there are opportunities. And I think that we, those of us in the industry have to commit to keeping our companies here so that they're, able to set conditions for people to make art in the future. And we have to use this time to find ways to educate our audiences so that they can, understand why these are things that need support, and why at many companies ticket sales only cover a fraction of the of the costs. So silver linings, personally, maybe; professionally, not many. I mean, it's an ugly time, not just for our industry, for so many. So
amen. That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. 2 more questions for you.
Yeah.
Do you have anything coming up, either professionally or personally, that you want us to know about? What's going on in your life, Brendan?
Yeah, so it's interesting. We as a company recently made a shift from focusing on all the things that we can't do. We went through this period of plan A, B, C, and D. For what opera are we going to do? How are we going to do it? And coming to the realization that it's going to be a while. It's going to be a while before we can feel safe rehearsing. I'm not even talking about getting to the theater and trying to get a group of patrons, many of whom are in an at-risk group, to sit together in a theater. I'm talking about the act of 20 singers rehearsing in a room.
Yep.
Right now, we're not confident there's a safe way to do that. So that was really tough for us to just be perpetually looking at trying to do something and then finding a reason that we couldn't. So staff has made the commitment to focus on the things that we can do, and they're much smaller in scope than we're accustomed to. We're talking about things that are 1 singer and a pianist, or 2 singers that quarantine together and a pianist. We're doing a drive-through event at our studio this weekend, where patrons, some of our patrons, we've been very limited in terms of who gets the invitation, given our we're still in a state of lockdown in Delaware, but we were given permission to sell our festival t-shirts. Good. So this weekend we're doing a very small invitation list where you come, you pick up your t-shirt curbside, and you'll be serenaded by a wonderful local tenor and our musical director.
I love it.
And then so the idea is to get a toehold and then build upon that.
Yeah.
And in the different layers of stages of reopening, or phases of reopening, we've looked at, well, what are we allowed to do in each of these phases?
Yeah.
I'm afraid to say that, until we are confident that an orchestra can be safely in a pit together and singers can safely be on stage together, we are focusing on things that we can do outside in our own facility. And I guess the next step would be how to travel to other places and bring live music to people who need it. We've also taken some archival content of some of the smaller concerts that we've done with piano in our studio. And one of our staff members had the really beautiful idea of getting these DVDs to our area retirement facilities that have closed circuit TVs. So all retirement communities in Delaware are on a lockdown. They can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
And no one can visit them. So it was that exercise of, what do we have that we can bring to them? And is it the same as bringing live acoustic music to them? Of course not. But is it again, we're focusing on what we can do. So we're watching the news, finding out when we get to these next phases. Here in Delaware, like many places, they're looking for a 14-day decline in cases.
Okay.
But we have
but
we have a plan. We have each phase, we're gonna take what comes. But I think long range planning right now is something we're putting on the back burner. I'm not saying we're not thinking about it, but I think we need to focus on how to engage our community however we can and while we can. And I think that when we get into the God willing, we're past this in the fall, right? But if we're not, that's when we'll start looking at more digital content that we could try to offer. But we're just trying to find ways to engage with our patrons, even if it's 2 or 3 at a time. I've been doing a pop-up pizza restaurant in the driveway every week.
I love it.
I'm
Because
not licensed.
You are one of the greatest pizza makers. I am not kidding. You thought last time that I was making fun. No, it's true. It's so good.
Well, coming
This is
from
an
an
Italian
Italian,
person. Exactly. This is an Italian person telling you this.
I've received some compliments in my life, but never one such as that, being complimented on pizza by an Italian.
Oh,
But
so
look,
good.
it's not a business. I can't take money for it. But what we've been doing is having our board members, some colleagues. We had staff from the Delaware Division of the Arts come and do curbside pickup. And we say, make a donation to an organization that you care about, or to a restaurant fund. I mean, these folks are hurting, and it's just something. It's something we're doing personally for ourselves to sort of mark the weeks, because they tend to blend into one. So it's one project that I can see a clear beginning, middle, and end to. And until we're back to finding the way that we build community best, which is in a theater, so
it's very generous of you. And
well, it's selfish, I think. I mean, it's something that's making me be able to get out of bed. So,
yeah, but you're giving a lot. You're giving your time, you're giving money, you're giving yourself to the greater good.
Julia, my wife, saw an interview with John Bon Jovi, and I'm taking inspiration from a somewhat unlikely source, and that he's written this song that says, "If you can't do what you do, do what you can." And I that's a pretty remarkable statement for where we are right now. And it's forcing all of us to be creative. It's forcing us to have reasons to get out of bed. So, thank you. I took a shower this morning. I put on my OperaDelaware shirt.
I love it.
I didn't shave my ridiculous mustache, but it's
I love that too.
Yeah, it's about finding ways, no matter how small, each day that we can impact our communities. So
excellent, very good.
Tough time.
Last question for you: if you weren't a general director, what would you have done in life?
Well, it's like, what didn't I do? I was a singer. I was a real estate broker.
Nothing in music. If you could pick again, and you are 18 years old, going into college, anything else you would have wanted to explore in life?
Yeah, I mean, the whole culinary thing is something I found later in life, and I imagine I wouldn't enjoy it quite as much if I did it for a living. But back to your comment about people not needing to know anything to go to the opera. I think there are two kinds of people in the world. There are people who are open to beauty in any medium, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that sometimes translates from one to the other. If you love fine wine and can talk about it, well, you might be more likely to appreciate the culinary scene or music or opera. So I think anything that revolves around bringing community together, and trying to have them leave that experience maybe with a different perspective. So food, winemaking, something like that.
From what you do and from what you would have done, it seems to me that you are the person that enjoys creating experiences for the people around you. Yeah. And that is magical.
It's something, we're very blessed here in Delaware.
Mm-hmm. You have it in you. You have it in you.
What's that?
You have it in you to create these experiences for
I enjoy. I think the biggest thing I enjoy about my job is putting a team together, and it's not just about the high C that comes out of their throat. It's about, we're going to live and work together for 6 weeks. What story are we going to tell together? My job when they get here is to make sure they have what they need in order to do their best work. And I really love that. I love giving people an experience that, that makes them feel valued. And I think that it translates to what an audience sees, So yeah, I really enjoy the community building aspect of it, both on the patron side, but on the performer side. We don't suffer fools around here. No one's got time for that. So we try to hire good people that do good work, and it's worked out well. So I imagine, if I have one skill and it's putting together a good team, I'd like to think that could translate to something else. But I don't want to think about that now. I want to think about this company getting to the other side of this mess, and I want to think about seeing the back of your head in the pit right before downbeat.
I just want to say that when I worked for you with your company for the few days that I was there, it was so wonderful. The whole environment, all the people that I was surrounded with, from the music staff to the administration to the singers that were chosen. It was, I hate to use this word, but I want to say it was an easy experience. I think that you know what I mean when I say easy.
It's a great word, and I didn't think that a compliment could top your kind words about pizza. But obviously, that's much more important to me, and I'd like to think that that's a common experience when someone leaves here. They want to come back.
Yeah, because you're actually letting people do their job,
and it's such a team effort from from the staff to the board to our volunteer housing coordinator. I mean, it takes an army of people, but I'm so blessed to be surrounded by people who work at this company and support this company that are all after that same experience of letting performers know when they're here that we appreciate the fact that they're here with us, and it's just it's a wonderful blessing, and I hope we can get back to it at the same scale soon. So
Brendan, this was absolutely wonderful. I cannot get enough of you. In fact, I'm going to call you right after this. Much love to you, to your family,
you too, my friend,
to your kids. Thank you for what you're doing to the art form, because without people like you, none of us would have a job or something to look forward to.
Well, and I'll send those comments right back to you for doing what you're doing to have these conversations. And I know you're a maestro, you're not a tech expert, so to go through all of this stuff, I mean, we're all adapting, but I appreciate that effort, and I'm grateful for those who are watching, but I look forward to our follow-up call. And you mentioned bourbon, so I think we should do the follow-up call after 5 o'clock.
I think we should. 107 is probably not appropriate, but I still have to do some kid things with my son. So
it is Friday. I'm just going to say that.
You are right. You are right.
All right. Good to see your face, my friend.
Thanks so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, and we'll talk soon.
Be well. Bye.